Namaste, my friends. Welcome to Jack Colley's Black Book. We're on episode number 47. And last time we took a look at verse 1 of the song of the classic Christmas carol, In the Bleak Midwinter. And I hope that you will look up the Christmas album that I wrote to follow the story. And I'm hoping that the things that I share will help bring the story to life a little bit more and maybe speak a lot more truth than sometimes comes through in a song that we're just kind of casually listening to or casually experiencing. So after verse 1, I introduce this little, I don't know, it's not really not a, it's, maybe it's a refrain, I'm not sure what you would call it, but it's a little bridge. And the bridge, it goes like this. Jeanette, go find your Isabella, Isabella, your Jeanette, longing for your lover in midwinter's night. And I had suggested that the name Jeanette means grace. And I had also suggested, having done a little bit of research, that Isabella means consecration. And so you have these two things working together, and almost these two things that need each other. Like, as an imperfect individual, I have to have grace all the time. I hope my friends show it to me. I hope my loved ones show it to me. I hope my family shows it to me. I hope I get grace extended to me because I need it. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to fall short. At the same time, I have to accept that. I have to make a conscious decision that it can apply to me, that it's okay to accept that sometimes I fall short and it has to apply to me. And this idea of grace seems to be unique to the Christian tradition. I don't see it in the other major religions. And so it seems to me that grace and consecration, that the extension of grace and the choice to accept that it is ours, needs to come together. And that's why in this song it made sense to make grace and consecration lovers that are going to come into union with each other. And thus, the metaphorical Isabella, Jeanette, go find your Isabella, Isabella, your Jeanette, longing for your lover in midwinter's night. So it starts out with grace wanting to be accepted, wanting to be claimed. And then it also comes out with the other character, Isabella, wanting to be chosen or consecrated. And that's kind of where the love story starts. So Jeanette and Isabella have not met each other yet at this point in the Christmas album, but they have a longing for the other. They feel like something is missing. They feel like they want a connection. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and it's in this midwinter's night. And so verse 2 comes around, and verse 2, I believe I kept it, for the most part, I kept it the same with the actual, what the original composer wanted. But I did change a few things here and there just to make it fit the narrative. So these 6 or 7 songs on this Christmas album, you will recognize the titles and you'll recognize the songs, but it should be pretty obvious too where I have taken some liberties to change things and adjust things so that I can better tell this story. So verse 2, let's see, I think, well, why don't I read the whole thing first? I think that might be a better way to do this. So verse 2 says, the babe, heaven can't hold him, nor the earth sustain. Heaven and earth will flee when he comes to reign. In the bleak midwinter, a stable place sufficed. All of life is found in him. The babe, he is the Christ. So I want to share just several things, and we're probably only going to get through verse 2. I'm going to share several just kind of observations and thoughts about each of these lines that I had. So it starts out, the babe, heaven can't hold him. And as I thought about this, I went back to yin yang. So I went back to yin yang here. So there is yin right here, which is the black area with the white dot. And then here's yang right here, which is order. It's the order, the purity, and you have these opposites that tend to work together. And the first couple of lines of this verse, it says heaven can't hold the baby and the earth can't sustain the baby. It's got to be both. And heaven, of course, is the white area of yang, and then earth is the chaos. And as I thought about this, I thought about stars and lights, Christmas lights that we talked about last episode. And I thought, heaven can't hold him. And it's almost like this structure. And when I think about looking at the stars in the sky at night, I think of looking at all the constellations, and I think about these stars that are always fixed in the sky. They're always there. They're always present. Whenever I go on my back deck, I look up and I can see Ursula Major, Big Bear and Little Bear and all of these constellations I can see, and they're always there, consistent with the rotation of the earth. They're just there. Now, I understand if you get close to a star, you're actually dealing with this chaos of burning gases and this churning, and like I get that if you get close to it. But the image of a star from Earth gives us a lot of stability, I think. It gives us place. And then you have the earth under your feet, which is constantly changing and growing. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly moving. And so you have this interesting first two lines talking about the babe of Christmas, how heaven can't hold him. He cannot belong entirely in the stars, and yet at the same time, earth is not going to be able to sustain this being, this Christ avatar that shows up to earth in the form of an infant. So I found that fascinating. And then it says, heaven and earth will flee when he comes to reign. And I thought about a teaching of Rabbi Jesus. I thought about a teaching where he talks to the woman at the well and says, at some point, you're not going to be worshiping in the temple or on the mountain. So again, I think there's that yin-yang right there, because to me, a temple is the heavens. It's the spiritual realm, which would be yang. And then the mountain is the natural realm. It's the earth, which would be the yin. It's the thing that is changing. So you have the temple, which offers consistency, and then you have the mountain, which is changing. It's being eroded. It's being buckled up. And Jesus says at some point it's not going to be about yin and yang. It's not even going to be about the temple versus the mountain. What worship is going to happen in spirit and truth, which, I've commented on others, so I don't want to take time to do that now. But I mean, eventually that's what worship is going to become. Worship is not going to be going to a church. It's not going to be it. It's going to be this existence. It's this perpetual experience of spirit and truth. That's what worship is going to be, bringing us out of the bleak midwinter. And then I thought about this, because the next one says, in the bleak midwinter, a stable place sufficed. And I think about the kind of the humble surroundings of where this infant that would change the course of the entire world, whether you believe this to be God incarnate or not, we have to accept that this image, this individual, changed the direction of the planet, of life, of all that we are. And what was interesting is he showed up in a stable. So it was sufficient. Just a stable was sufficient. And this is fascinating to me, because when I think about the other avatars of Christ that have showed up on the planet, whether you're talking Buddha for those in the East, whether you're talking about like all the manifestations of the Hindu gods, all of the different Hindu gods that are different aspects of Brahman, different parts of the God, if you will, that suddenly show upon earth in these incredible stories. It's like, here they are. They have this announcement. They're going to fix things. They're going to give us hope. They're going to, all of these kind of bursting onto the scenes. And in the Christian tradition, the bursting in on the scene is through an infant, which I chew on that. And when you see a manger scene, when you see this image, I have some manger scenes upstairs right now. It's only 3 days after Halloween, but this is the Kali house after all. So we have these manger scenes, and when I see this infant, it's like, that's the story. The story of this avatar doesn't show up with great expectation on planet Earth. This avatar of God, this incarnation of God, shows up in an infant, not bursting on the scene, but a baby. It just fascinates me that and I like to think about, like, why did that stick with us? Something so atypical. But again, one thing interesting about the Christian tradition is often Christianity puts these little twists on things that I think, unfortunately, people miss because they tend to focus only on Christianity and instead of a larger context. But anyway, that is verse 2. I'm gonna stop right there. That's verse 2, and then I go into the little bridge again. Jeanette, go find your Isabella. Isabella, your Jeanette, longing for your lover in midwinter's night. This relationship, this dance between grace and consecration, which to me is introduced during the holiday of Christmas. All right. Namaste, my friends.